Good morning, everyone. This is a special edition, so welcome to another episode of Ryanico's World. I have a lot to get to, so it's pretty fun. It's actually a Sunday morning. I got very excited because we're gonna go to mass like we always do every Sunday, and I don't know. I was excited this morning. I wanted to have the weekends off, and as far as doing episodes here, but I got up, I was excited. I'm going to wear this to mass, so I'm looking forward to it. But I want to tell you guys, shout out to Jason to give me some pointers as far as the mic position. So I had it a little closer, so I have it down here a little bit at an angle. And let's see if it works. It looks like it might work. And I lifted up a little bit, but you still can't see it. But it's right there below the camera there. So hopefully it works. Hopefully it sounds better. But let's start with the prayer. All right. So morning prayer, offering to the Holy Trinity, most holy and adorable Trinity, one God in three persons. I praise you and give you thanks for all the favors you have bestowed upon us. Your goodness has preserved us until now. We offer you our whole being, and in particular all our thoughts, words, and deeds. Together with all the trials we may undergo this day, give us your blessing. May your divine love animate them, and may they serve your greater glory. We make this morning offering in union with the divine intentions of Jesus Christ, who offers himself daily in the holy sacrifice of the Mass, and in union with Mary, his Virgin Mother, and our Mother, who is always the faithful handmaid of the Lord. Glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit. Amen. Father, Son, Holy Spirit. All right, let me bookmark this again. All right, we said a prayer, got my cup of coffee. We're good to go. So, a lot has happened since, I think, a couple days ago since I talked. So we're going to talk about the news. We're going to talk about my life experience, what I've gone through as far as Lyft rides. A lot of it comes from Lyft rides because, man, you meet people every day. And it starts out with, how's your day going? I mean, it's just simple as that. We never ask each other. We never even ask our friends that sometimes. How are you doing? How's your day going? What's going on today? What's bothering you today? So all that goes into that question of how's your day going? And it can go either way. It can go fine, good, and the rider stays quiet, me too, or they open up. So again, I'm open to open up, and I'm open to listening to people who open up, because that's something I wish I had as well. Outside of my family here, because my wife, I guess I'm spoiled as far as being listened to, because she's a wonderful listener. But when you talk to people outside, you want to give their opinion as well, and a lot of times we are just busy. We don't have time to listen. I do it a lot as well. So every time when I listen to people and on Lyft, I always just take a moment. I'm like, okay, stop talking and just listen. And you'd be surprised of just quiet silence for like a second. They think you're going to talk, and then you're just quiet, and they continue talking. So it opens up even more. So pretty neat, but we have a lot to talk about. So let's start off. And these are things I wrote in my book. I take this book to work, to Lyft, when I drive for Lyft, and it's crazy. Every once in a while, if I have a thought or something comes up, or I talk to someone, I write it down, and it's pretty interesting what people have to say. And obviously, I'm not going to be the name specific or anything, but the situations, absolutely, because that's real life. That's a lot of people go through. A lot of people don't realize that a lot of people go through it, not just them. So let's see. Ave Maria Mutual Fund. Oh, yeah. Not easy available. So that's the weird part, where when I was a financial advisor with Edward Jones, they asked me, what type of client do you want to have? So that's what's neat about it. They ask you, how do you want to grow your business? So it's really, really neat and robust. And, I asked myself, I'm like, well, I just started at this Catholic adult prayer group, and I was definitely in, an advanced stage in my faith life. So how can I add this into my professional career? So I was very much interested. So I tried that, and you look up different stock information, you have availability of hundreds or even thousands of different investments and stock investments and everything when it comes to the stock market to help your clients. Well, one of the things I have to be equipped is if I were to go into a Catholic church and promote myself and tell them, hey, I'm part of this parish and I want to help. Well, the first thing is going to come is, do you have any type of faith-based investments? And there are out there. Specifically Ave Maria. I heard that from a relevant radio, a Catholic countrywide, I think even worldwide radio station. You can find it on your app store as well, Relevant Radio. I talk about it a lot, and then EWTN as well. But they have advertisements on Relevant Radio and Ave Maria funds. And I'm like, okay, cool. There are mutual funds. So don't want to get too much into the weeds as far as what's the difference between a stock and a mutual fund, but I'll give you a plain example. So stock is literally a widget or a piece of the pie of an actual company. So if you have one share of Johnson & Johnson, one share of Pepsi, one share of Netflix, one share of Google, any of that, you're directly connected to it. Mutual fund, think of like a pool, essentially a swimming pool, and you have the lifeguard as the account manager that handles all these different Googles or Pepsis or individual stocks inside of that pool. So a lot of people are inside that pool. There's one lifeguard, the account manager is managing what goes in, what goes out. So that's the difference between a mutual fund and a individual stock. So you have more risk when it comes to your eggs in one basket inside that one individual Pepsi stock compared to a pool of stock that you're paying that account manager or the account overall. But there's pros and cons. Again, don't want to go into weeds, but Ave Maria mutual funds, you pay a little bit more in general for mutual funds, but your risk goes a little bit lower because you're more diversified. So, and stocks, you typically pay a transaction, or now there's Robinhood, the app where you virtually pay no transaction fees. So it's really neat how that does it. But yeah, so mutual funds still exist. Mutual funds are still a great option. Obviously, I can't recommend anything because as far as legality purposes, but yeah, there's different options essentially. So just for educational purposes. And then when you have a mutual fund, and you think, many companies would have that, and even Edward Jones, but they didn't have it on the platform. And I'm like, all right, and I typed it in. I physically cannot sell a share of Ave Maria mutual funds. And there's about 4 different types of mutual funds, and they're all different set based on your risk assessment. So it's really neat. You can truly be diversified with Ave Maria mutual funds, just with them. So it was weird. I couldn't find it. And I thought it was just an Edward Jones thing. But then I went on Robinhood. I couldn't find it either. I went on Fidelity. And if I remember correctly, Fidelity has one, but they only have like one. And I'm like, okay, what's going on? So you truly have to, and it's a closed-end mutual fund, so it's a little different how they have it set up. There's open-end and then closed-end mutual funds, so maybe that's it. But I just thought it was weird because, like, what's going on? Like, you can't have a mutual fund set up there if it's Catholic-based. Like, something sounds fishy. And if I remember correctly, I think we did sell, or were able to sell, closed-end mutual funds. So it's crazy how it's all set up. Because again, I have no proof. I'm just doing it physically. And I don't know, but I did not like that. And again, not just Edward Jones, there are other companies as well. So it was just weird. It was hard to find it. It was hard to find it because that's what I wanted. So on Robinhood, it's not on there, and most of my investments are on Robinhood. So that's what's crazy about it. Don't know. Hopefully, someone can help me with that, but it is doesn't look good, in my opinion. Like, come on, and they're just as reputable. Like, what's going on? So again, if you are looking at it at a social perspective, maybe people don't like Catholics. Who knows? I don't know. They don't know. All I'm seeing is the proof that you can't have it on a what Edward Jones talks about, how they have over 8,000 employees or financial advisors and $1 billion in assets and over I don't know how many clients. A lot of clients, thousands. So it's crazy how they don't have that available. And again, not to pick on Edward Jones, but because I actually really enjoyed working there, so nothing's wrong with them. But I'm just being honest that they didn't have it there. Don't know why, because a lot of your older clients are Christian. But again, if we don't look into it, if we don't talk about it, they'll never know. So, and then the next one, BLM against families. I write kind of chicken scratch because I'm driving or I'm at a stoplight. So it says BLM against families families. Oh yeah, familiar. I can't read my chicken scratch. Familiar. BLADS. Anyway, so BLM against families, so it is. And they're against black families. I think that's what I meant by that. Where so many times what a coincidence, Antifa, or not even the Antifa, just the gay community or the LGBT community, they're surprisingly connected together with BLM. And if you look at the history of BLM, the Black Lives Matter, and again, I hate saying Black Lives Matter because that's not what they stand for. It's just a name that they choose, and it's really confusing. So by saying BLM, it almost takes away the confusion of it, because I remember back in 2017, 3 years ago, people were like, do Black Lives Matter? And they were like kind of a double meaning where, it's, are you asking that individually, like humanly, Black Lives Matter? Or are you wanting me to say that I agree with this organization? And I think that's why people did not like saying it. But I remember when Black Lives or BLM members were touting and pushing it, do Black Lives Matter? Even reporters, your CNNs of the world, they would ask them, do Black Lives Matter? Do Black Lives Matter? And you're almost like at a pause. You're like, wait a minute, I know what you're doing. You're baiting me. But I'm here to say all lives matter. And if you want to get technical, all Black lives matter. That are in the womb, that are in prison, that are in gangs, that are getting killed by gangs, that are getting killed by own black people, and those who are getting killed, unfortunately, by police, black or white. That's what or even any other race. There was one that was a cop that he was Hispanic, if I remember correctly. And there's another one that was black, as far as cops killing other black men. So that's baloney. I just don't like it at all, because that organization I do not agree with. That organization has so many other agendas, and a lot of times they don't care about their own black people. They just don't. They only care about what I can make a good guesstimation that it's a small percentage, a third, 3% comes in my mind, of police, white cops, not cops, white cops killing black people And remember, on duty. So, again, if you want to go with that organization, fine. It's a free country. But it's not as big as what they think it is. And Don Lemon even said on CNN, it's not, that's a whole different organization compared to caring about black people getting killed by black people. So they openly admit it. Or at least Don Lemon did it, so he's a spokesman for them, for BLM. And he literally said that they are separate. That's why I'm against it, because it's not supposed to be separate. If you care about black lives, you care about all black lives. All of them. And they don't. They're for abortion. They don't care. They don't talk about or make a stance publicly about gang violence, which are essentially minorities killing minorities. And I say that because there's blacks and Mexicans. But the old saying goes is, you put a bone in front of two dogs, which are your enemies, it'll take care of itself. And that's what they're doing. So if you want to talk about the real racism there, but again, I believe in classism and evil. That's it. And if you want to say racism falls in the category of evil, take your pick. Get in line. But I don't believe in racism. I believe in evil people and classism. Because classism has to do with 100% with money. And you bet you a lot of people believe money is their God. If you don't believe me, check out statistics why people go crazy right now. There's more suicide hotline calls now that we're in a pandemic. Take their jobs away, which is directly connected to their money, they go crazy. Their number of suicides when millionaires back in the crisis, the '08 crisis, the housing market crisis, many suicides happened at that time. They even mentioned in that movie, The Big Short, Brad Pitt, he was like, and I don't know the statistic he said, but for every point that unemployment goes up, the death rate goes higher. Suicide rates go higher. So it's crazy. So it's just evil people. And I'm sorry, but BLM does not support all black lives. And I can't get on that train. I can't get on that ride. I just can't. Because that's not what I stand for. I stand for all black lives. And if you want to get technical even more, all lives. But even that becomes politicized. So I'm for black people. But I'm for all black people. Heck, make a organization. All Black Lives Matter. Make an organization. Make a heck of a sentence titled of organization, so you know exactly what you're fighting for and what you're going for. I'm for organizations called Help Gang Violence. I'll get on that. But when you're talking about gangs, you're talking about drugs. You're talking about the cartel. You're talking about a whole systemic violence that's been going on since at least since the 60s. And I just thought about it before. How did gangs start? And I'll tell you how, because I watched a couple of documentaries of how the Bloods and Crips, how that started. If I remember correctly, it was in the 70s. And here's another crazy correlation. And I'll tell you about it. Well, I'll tell you right now before I forget. But the 60s, they made a little pill called contraceptive pill. Where you can, what a coincidence, about the 60s became the free love. The 69, if I remember, 1969 was the summer of love. And what a coincidence, a couple years before that, they had, in the same decade, they created this pill and they were selling it worldwide where you can have sex with a woman or you can have sex with anyone. And as far as a woman to a man to a woman, and you take this pill, more than likely, high chance that you will not get pregnant. Throw that into the world and see what happens. And you see a lot of it. So that's what a coincidence that started. And then look at when, within 10 years, in the 70s, the Bloods and Crips. So how did they start? And again, I'll tell you how they started, of what they mentioned, how they happened. It was literally they had no family members. They felt alone. And you could tell ask any gang member on the street, if you're bold enough to ask them. Some people asked them, they put them on documentaries on YouTube, and I watched them, and they say, these were my brothers. My brother from another mother. They felt close and tied to him. They had this connection, this bond between them, because they didn't get it at home. They didn't get it from their own family members. And you ask yourself, why? Well, what happened? Again, 10, 15 years prior to that, contraceptive pill came up. And that was when Pope John Paul II even wrote a letter, and is still prevalent to this day, because Catholics still follow it, and it will always follow it, because it's just what Catholicism, Christianity is. Sent from God. That you do not take advantage of another life. You do not have sex just for the sake of pleasure. There's a whole responsibility to it, to procreate, to bring into this world. And yes, we will have pleasure of that couple seconds, couple minutes with that person that you love, and you bring that bond together. But if you are just treating both sides like a piece of meat, it goes against it completely. And it goes against what? The family. And again, what a coincidence how you started these gangs. And then they had other gang members, and they felt so tight. What happens when your brother's outside, generally speaking, and you see another person that's not your family, or so-called your family, and they mess with them? What do? You defend your family. You defend your brother. And they were so tight with these friends. All they were just friends, but they didn't have that brotherly love, that family love. So they found it elsewhere. And somehow they switched from just a brotherly bond to, hey, there's so many other brotherly bonds. And they're messing with us. And then by the 70s, you see all these drugs coming up little by little. And of course, add that with the regular alcohol that's always been available. It's crazy. So of course there's violence. Of course there's defending. But then it turned violent. Then became, by the 90s, it was crazy. They talk about Rodney King in 93, I think. But at the same time, right across this, that was in LA. Well, yeah, in LA and in Chicago. They had the Latin Kings. Look up the Latin Kings. How violent they were. It was just very violent. To the point where right now it's triple of that, even quadruple that with cartels. And I'm Mexican. I seen on YouTube that YouTubers, I guess I'm considered a YouTuber, but I have 6 subscribers, so I don't have a lot of reach. But God forbid if I get a lot of reach, I might not be able to talk about that, because they threaten people that talk about the cartels, or I guess not talk about it, but report things. So there's a distinction. So I don't know. It looks like they're reporting things. I guess I'm not reporting. I'm just telling the truth, but that might be reporting. It's sending out information. All I'm saying is they're bad. But again, and it's sad to say this, but I care about my family. And if I ever get threatened, and I don't have 80,000 or 100,000 like that guy did, because I looked up that. I'm like, does he have 5 subscribers? If they threaten people at 5 subscribers, then I got to be quiet. And that's the hurtful thing that I have to say, that I'll be quiet. I'll play along because I care about my family. It sucks to say that, but it's honest. Is because you can't stop them. You need a government. And that's why I really liked when Trump talked about the M13. No one could talk about them. Yeah, we could talk about it to our families, whatever. But on a live television, anything, is scary. because they can threaten you and they will kill you because that's how they operate. That's just their business. And I seen Ed Calderon on Joe Rogan. He talked about some truthful things about Mexico and the cartels, and it's real. It is definitely real, and it's sad because you're living fear. So I get why people want to come here now, but the government's all controlled. You don't know what to do. And again, I talk about how even all that, you can still live great in Mexico. You may have to play the Mexican way, and it's true. He talked about how people just, that's their culture. You pay off police. If a police stops you, okay, let me pull out my wallet. He joked about it, but it's true. It's sad. It's sad that they have to think that way, but hey, if you pay a little bit more to play the game, I don't know. Like I said, we're all corrupt. There's so many governments that are corrupt. We found here, even in this government, is corrupt. And it's sad. And honestly, that's why I like Trump, because he's cleaning the swamp. Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, they've all been there since the 70s. You're telling me that ain't fraud? It's almost like that concept that I mentioned before, how, show the dog this, but really doing this, working on this, but make the dog notice over here. Like, hey, dog, hey, look over here while I do things over here. Maybe that's the president concept. Here's the president. Let's talk about the president forever. But the Senate and the Congress, these people are staying in forever. And yeah, they get voted in, but you don't know what to vote for because they rarely talk about their campaign. You don't see a big campaign about Senates. You have little signs up. Well, that's it. They don't say, hey, I'm running for Senate. I'm running for Congress. You rarely see that. So it's crazy. And they get voted in because they're either Republican or Democrat. And boom. So that has to stop. That's crazy. Nancy Pelosi's 80 years old. Joe Lewis or John Lewis, he was old. And he was still out working the government. I don't care how old you are. I don't care how sad it is that you pass away. You should not be at that age dealing with the government because you know why? You are the problem. They talk about how great things he's done, yeah, for as far as Martin Luther King and everything, but let's be honest, and not just him, all the other people. He just happens to pass away. Did any change? Did they get equal rights? Do they have women's rights? Do they have black rights? Obviously not, because you see so much tension in this country today. So let me ask you this, and I do this for the Catholic Charities too, so don't think about just Democrats. Same thing, Republicans. There's a company called, or an organization called Catholic Charities. They have so many things around the world. But have you taken care of what you want to take care of? Your main goal? And no, they're still out there. So I watched this documentary on Netflix, and it's pretty interesting how they said in order, I think they talk about Tom's, I think it's called Tom's, the shoe company where if you buy a shoe, they put money towards another shoe that goes towards a homeless person in Africa. And they mentioned Catholic Charities as well and so many other charities, global charities. And they said in order for that company to exist, there's always got to be that problem. There is. So as long as that company exists, there's always that problem. Let's say homelessness. There's people that fight homelessness. Here I talked to a passenger. I didn't write down, it just came to me. Passenger yesterday. She's moved from California to here, which is good, but I kind of bet you the whole don't make my Texas, California. So I'll give her the scoop on that. Or I gave her the scoop on that. But she mentioned that there are these organizations that make these sandwiches for homeless people and they just give it out. And obviously they get money from donations, and there were they're entitled homeless people. Oh, I want this type of crunch bar. I want this. Want that other person got one. How come not me? And she got tired of it. She was helping. She was like, oh my gosh, they're just jerks. And I'm like, yeah, there's jerks everywhere. And just because you're homeless doesn't mean you're not a jerk. So, and she said the majority of people were thankful and everything, but there's some people that are just jerks. And you look at these things and you're like, okay, that organization, I didn't talk about that organization. She barely mentioned it, but what are they doing? That's what we can do. I can make food and sandwiches and give to that. I don't have millions of dollars. They have organizations that bring in millions of dollars. If not, at least hundreds of thousands of dollars. And there's even small ones that brings in tens of thousands of dollars. I don't have that money. So I can make these sandwiches. You're putting a Band-Aid, basically, on cancer. You can't fix it. I shouldn't say cancer, because cancer sometimes is unfixable most of the times. But, you're putting a Band-Aid on a big cut that you need stitches. That's a better analogy. And they don't do it. So that's why I'm very reluctant on these things. And if I ever have $1 million, and I said this is a joke, but I say this now as a serious concept, because I said it as a joke because I don't think I'll ever get $1 million. I say it in my head. I say it during prayers. I say when I see another guy and I give $1, that means nothing. Every time these people are asking for money, we just give them a fix. That's it. And a fix can be water. It can be food. It can be drugs. It can be anything. It's just a fix. And the biggest thing that I want to do, if I ever had even $1 million, but it takes more. I think on Joe Rogan's show they mentioned, they're talking about government money, and one guy mentioned, I think it was, I'm trying to remember, like a couple billion, like $2 billion a year to fix homelessness, to take care of homelessness. I loved how he said that. I'm like, wow. Because they mentioned about, what if we take $2 billion off here, a couple billion off there. They're negotiating for the stimulus package. And he was like, well, $2 billion can fix homelessness in the country every year. So it doesn't take a lot to do it. So you got to ask yourself, why haven't people do that? Maybe it's in their agenda. Maybe if they see that, they have a chip in their play, or a ace in their hand, essentially a playing card. So it's crazy. And my idea is literally just build a small complex. Think of like these normal apartments that they're making now. Beautiful apartments. They have these buildings, and I even did the math on them, that they have about 32 in each building. So 4 and 4, and there's 2, so 8 times 2 is 16. So 16 for, no, I think they even have another one. So at least 20. 16 to 32, because I forgot if it's double that or not. But even with that amount, and they have, 20 buildings like that in a big complex. If you go to any apartments, they typically have about, 15 to 20 buildings of that within that complex. Why don't we just make that a couple of those? And then have restaurants and make it a whole little town where they can work there and they don't have to pay anything. They just work as retail people, restaurants, you name it. Think of like your Marshalls. You bring in Ross, you bring in Marshalls. And I thought about it as far as the business side of it. Companies don't want to get connected to homelessness. Yeah, it sounds cool for an organization. Let's be honest, they're not going to do it. They just won't. So thinking that myself, we can't have these Marshalls. We can't have these Ross. We can't have steakhouses, Texas Roadhouse. We can't. So we make our own. Say Nico's Steakhouse, Nico's Boutique, whatever. And I even made a nice thing, whatever homeless person, individual's name, put their name on it. Who cares? And I manage it. I take care of all this. And it'll probably cost close to $100 million to do. So I mentioned $1 million. But that's my ultimate grand idea is, 100 million. I don't need 2 billion. 100 million. I don't know about you, but 100 million sounds a lot, but it's less, definitely less than a billion, 2 billion. I need 900 million more to get just to a billion. So all I need is 100 million, and I can make it work. So if anyone want to give me $100 million, come to me. I will talk to you about even more about my idea. But that's the idea of it. Is simple. And then I mentioned even $1 million idea. Let's say, okay, Nico, stop dreaming. But yeah, that to end that part is, yeah, they will live there. They don't even have to pay anything. Or if they want to feel good, $100, whatever you're making, it's okay. And then you have them work on these, and they make money. So all this money that comes into it, we basically break even. And then I even thought, once, if I ever have a big business that I can afford it, with my clothier business, I'll just use that money to pay, and I'm not asking to pay anything. Just work and go home and live your life. That's it. That's all we're doing. We all want happiness, so all right. And at the same time, I just happen to stop homelessness. So a lot of homeless people are capable of working. That's what I looked at. A lot of these people are just hanging out, lazy. They just don't have no purpose in life. And there's nothing wrong with that. Sometimes we don't even have no purpose in life. A millionaire would have no purpose in life. So it has nothing to do with money. It's just they think of money as a god and they give up, and I get it because sometimes I think that too. So that's what's crazy about it. My smaller idea is just buying a building. Literally with just showers and food. Just help the basics. Help them with the basics. Again, I mentioned that before, those organizations, they're doing it right now. And it means nothing. They're still outside. So I'm talking about housing, but it has nothing to do with the government, nothing. It's just an individual helping an individual. You don't have no entitlements, nothing. I want to do this to you because I love you as a brother, as a sister. And it's a different tone to it. So it's not Section A, it's not this, it's nothing of that. It's just truly just one person helping another person. That's it. But yeah, that's the biggest idea. And then the other thing with that bigger idea was that I didn't mention any money that I recuperate from the sales of the retail stores and everything. I will use that to pay the doctors, because Dr. Umar Johnson, look him up. He's pretty cool. He was on the Breakfast Club, and they put him down because he mentions, I forgot something that about homosexuality, but it's so true. But they do that. The news do that. They know that you're very strong and powerful, so they just find one thing about you and tell people, oh yeah, he's connected to the KKK. Don't listen to him. He believes in aliens. Don't listen to him. And they don't. So, but he is a powerful person. Listen to him. He even talked about how the gay rights movements, the women's rights movements in the 70s and everything going forward, the Democrats pushed, and they really didn't care about black people. And now he was talking about how immigrants, they put more emphasis on immigrants. And I said that in a video, that what a coincidence. One lady that I picked up from Lyft, she talked about it. Like, people know. They're like, okay, why are you giving all these benefits when I'm working here? I'm here. I live here. I was even born here. And I'm a black woman. I'm a black man. What's going on? Why are you not caring about me? So he was interesting. And he talked about that too, about the 4 pillars that you need for any organization. He's pro-black. Like, he's truly pro-black. If you want to talk about a black warrior for the black people, he is it. He cares about the family. He's a doctor. He's a psych. Like, he deals with people, young individuals, young men. So many things that he brings them up, and he teaches them the psychology of life. And it's really cool. So don't believe what the Breakfast Club, that he talked for 20 seconds about it. read his information. And you have to look for it, because I've done it already on YouTube, and you have to look down, way down on the search bar for them. But there are talks that he does. Oh my gosh, amazing. But he says you need a school, you need a bank, you need a hospital, and you need a grocery store. Those are 4 things that he needed. So, we already got the bank. I'm the bank. I just basically take away the money side of it, because it's just flowing, essentially. And then 2 is the is the school. So that part, I would like to say I would get teachers. And then the hospital, I need the doctors. That's why. And the other one was the school or the bank, or so those are the 4 things that you need. And it's true. So again, for the bank part of it, I'll just take control of it, because it's a weird dynamic. It's not a society, but at the same time, we are all people. So it's like a mini society. So I don't need a national bank or anything. I just manage the money. That's it. And make sure everyone gets a piece. That's what it comes down to. So, but yeah, it's pretty neat how he said that. And it's true. In any society, you need that. You need food, a bank, a hospital, and a school. So it can happen. It definitely can happen. And again, that's what I'm talking about, families and overall, and homelessness, all these things, they just don't care. And it's sad. So that's my grand idea. Or at the end of the day, just rent a house and split them up and make like 6 or 7 or even more showers, and just have them come in. Take a shower, hang out, have like a little lobby, and do your thing. Because that's the most I can offer. Like, at least with me, you can have some dignity and have at least a clean body. Toothpaste, any of those things. So that's my smaller plan. But again, that's just a band-aid. If you want a real thing, $100 million a year. So, and again, for a person that makes $1 billion, $100 million, it's not hard at all. But will they do it? Nope. So, next one is essential construction workers. Ooh, we talked about that I talked about it with a writer earlier yesterday. Oh my goodness. It was crazy. He talked about how they're just prophets. And I was like, okay, I already wrote it down. I kind of knew what my opinion was. But I'm like, what do you think about this construction? I acted dumb. I'm like, about being essential workers, because we passed by them. And he was like, yeah, it's all prophets, man. I'm like, yes. I'm like, that's what I think too. I'm not a weird one. And we're just talking more about it, but I gave him my opinion. I'm like, what is essential of a building that hasn't been up yet? How does that affect us human beings? By not having a building. It doesn't. But when you're talking about billionaires, millionaires, and billionaires that are overseeing this entire construction of a multi-million-dollar building, or even multi-billion-dollar building sometimes, they don't want to get messed. They don't want their money to be messed with. So you have to build this at this time, and that's wrong, because the construction workers feel like crap. And let's be honest, a lot of these construction workers are Mexican, are Latino, but we all know it's basically Mexican people, my own race, and it's just what happens. If you want to talk about classism, they don't care. And it's just crazy. I want to build a house one of these days with only Mexican people, and I'll pay them directly, because that's how much they should be paid. But these contractors, these owners of these companies, construction companies, they get cheap labor all the time. And it's sad, because you're using them. And people talk about vegetables, plain vegetables, all these things, and only Mexicans can do it. And yeah, we've done that, and we're taking over construction now. Sooner or later, we're going to take over engineers and financial advisors. So you better believe it, because they try to pass in Mexico. It sounds different, this topic, but it's correlating to what this is. And same thing with Islam population, for the Muslim population. Their birth rate are like to the roof compared to American birth rate. And Mexico too. There's more and more Mexicans being born than Americans. And more Arabic people, or even Muslims. Let's just talk about the religion side of it. There are more and more Muslims being born than Catholics. So it's pretty interesting how that happens. And then also, they try to pass a law in Mexico, a universal or a countrywide law of, I think it was contraception or abortion. Yeah, abortion. Because right now it is illegal to have abortion. If I remember correctly, in Mexico, they try to pass a law, and they denied it recently. But they're going to appeal it, so it's a continuous battle. But that was a nice win, that Mexico still has a heart, literally. So it's crazy how that happens. But they're trying to do it. They passed it in Ireland. Irish, you think Irish Catholics? Not anymore. So they're doing it around the world. Why? Because it makes billions of dollars, from the doctors to the nurses to the staffs, and let alone just abortions. I saw a brand new building here in town, and it says behavioral health. What? You mean a parent? Behavioral health. Like, you need a doctor to help you learn how to behave. I don't get it. But you throw in a couple of prescriptions, a couple of pills, it's all connected. And they will be different. They will be a different child that they need help. To the parents who are having 2 jobs, or even the parents who, or even the high class parents, the high middle class parents who are making $100,000 each, they're just loving their job. Thinking they're loving the job, but they're just, that's all they know how to do. They don't care about their kids. There's many people, and I don't mention who because they're very close to me, but they drop off their kids at 6:30, 7 a.m., go to work, and sometimes they even work at home. Work at home or go out to work, and they don't pick them up till 6:30 sometimes. 12 hours in the day they don't see their kids. And they do that for years. And they don't come home till 5 o'clock. And then they do whatever and then wait an hour and then go pick them up. And then from that side of it, you got to do your normal things, have dinner. I don't even know what dinner is to them. They don't even know what dinner is to them. Picking up fast food. And by the time you take a shower, do everything, is all this job stuff that you have to do for the family that is important, but you don't spend truly bonding time with them. What do you do? Let's just do simple math. You don't have time to spend time with your kids. That's hard because I'm the minority here. But again, stay-at-home moms gets bad rap for staying at home. They're all ugly. They don't pursue their careers. Baloney. We're going to see this experiment is hitting, since the late 80s, childcare became more prevalent. Now it's a business. A gay guy is the owner of Goddard School. I'm talking about just one owner because they're a franchise. So he has his own franchise of Goddard School. And he's like a 31-year-old. What does he know about parenting? And he's not married. No kids. You know why he says that? Because it's a good business. And I can't knock it. Because it is. Because you see parents do that. They just drop them off. outsource their kids' behavioral health. It's making billions of dollars all around, from childcare to abortion. All of it's connected. It's sick. It definitely is. And that's how it is. The family is being ruined. But again, this is only a shutter of the world has to offer, or what the world has to offer. We're just a little piece of hair on a grain of hair on a husky dog. That's it. We're just a grain of sand on the beach. We're gonna get past. So sooner or later, maybe 100 years, or even sooner, they're gonna realize, okay, we need a mother at home. They're going to realize, like, there are differences between men and women. Men can't do this. Women can't do that. There are things. But men can do this and women can do that. So it's going to take a couple generations or two. And we're going to remember that. They're going to realize, okay, abortion is killing and it's us being selfish. I can do this. I can do this. Maybe God isn't all bad. Maybe homosexuality is a mental health and people don't really know how to handle their sexuality. Maybe they want to be a woman when they're a guy, or they want to be a woman when they're a guy, or they want to be a guy when they're a woman, because they just want someone to talk to figure out what's going on. Maybe they've been raped, all these different things. Maybe we just need to listen to these kids or adults. But again, time will tell. And I believe that. I believe the smarter heads will prevail. It just will. But right now, it's in a crazy situation. That's why you have this chaos. And there's always been chaos. Is one of the questions I'll have if I ever meet God. I say, God, I got some questions for you. Let me pull out my book. So that's the crazy part about it. And, it is what it is. But I don't play that game. I just don't. It's, my wife stays at home. I respect her. I don't throw dishes in front of her and say, clean this, woman, make me food. We know our roles and we respect each other for those roles. And if we have time, we help each other do it. She cut the grass one time. I did the dishes one time. It's just, you show that love. Like, wow, I know I'm supposed to do this thing, but my husband comes in and helps me. Man, there's that love connection. Like, he really cares. Even though I take care of it and he knows I will do it, he still does it. So you open these realms of love, and man, it's beautiful. Times that by 20, 30 years, you have a love that no pill, no drug, no LSD, no fentanyl will give you. So again, it's crazy. Going back to these, the whole hospitals, behavioral health, all this stuff, they're making money. They're making money. A guy I picked up yesterday as well, or 2 days ago, he has to go to the hospital because they want to check sugar in his blood. How much does that cost? So it's just crazy. Anyways, next to another one, like I said, it's the construction workers. I feel bad because they don't care about them. And it's sad. Because what if they got sick? They don't care. Oh, they work outside. They're tough guys. It's okay. They're human. No one's a superhero. Okay? Only Val Kilmer in my book is Batman. That's it. George Clooney, you ain't Batman. What's his name? The other Batman recently. Forgot his name. Not Ben Affleck, but the one before. Dang it, forgot his name. But not him either. He was pretty cool, but Val Kilmer is the best. Should have kept him on. Video games. Kid Best Buy. Oh, yeah, I remember this one. Woo! That is crazy. This young adult, I think he's 18. He went to Best Buy. I don't know if said this on last episode, but I'll share it again. He went to go to Best Buy to buy a monitor so he can have another screen, not one screen, another screen for his video gaming. And I asked him, like, what video games do you like? He likes Call of Duty and Grand Theft Auto. He says he plays a lot of those. So, all right. Then I asked him, like, well, how much is this monitor? Like, I acted dumb. I'm like, can you put it on like a computer monitor, or is there a special type of monitor? He was like, oh yeah, there's special ones because they get different, whatever, hertz. Who knows? He mentioned some things. Woo! I was like, all right, whatever. But he mentioned there's the data part of it where it goes faster, essentially. It's a lot smoother interface, he said, so it looks cooler. And I'm like, all right. And that's cool to me. And he went in there. I waited for him like at least a half hour. I'm like, good Lord. So I was just waiting there because he got a ride to there and back, so I had to wait. And he came over. It was $160 for what was that? A regular monitor, like computer company monitor. And I was like, a Sarah. There we go. Yeah, a Sarah, I think it was. I'm like, this is cool. $160, he said. And he was like, yeah, but I wanted a $300 one, but they don't have available. I'm like, good Lord, $300 you already spent on this. And then I had to tell him, I'm like, man, I can't get into this. He was like, why? He's like, I just know too much. And I'm dumb. I was like, I know too much about the business behind video gaming. And again, I'm saying the same thing because it's my thought. I rarely change my thoughts. And it's just, except for the Euro at Arby's. I hated Euros, but I tasted the Greek Euro at Arby's. Oh, so good. Anyways, I rarely change my thoughts on things. So I'm saying the same thing like I said to the other kid about it as well. But this one is different, this guy, because he looked like an adult. Like at least a senior in high school, maybe more. So he ain't no kid. He's a senior. He's an adult in my book. He's taller than me. And he probably has a deeper voice than me. So, excuse me. So, we were chatting a little bit more, and he was like, why? You know, what do you know? He asked. I'm like, just, my brother-in-law knew a little bit more about EA Sports. He researched them because he wanted to work for them. He interviewed them one time, and he learned more. And then he mentioned to me there are algorithms within those games that make you more addicting. Like it will have certain algorithms and certain times the computer knows when you're behind, so they'll give you whatever. It can be anything, any game, any world, fake world or fantasy world. They will make it where if you're behind on something, it will give you an opportunity to go close. And then if you beat the game, it'll take you a while, but it will give you different settings to go back down. So you have to try more. All these different things. It'll tell you how long you've been playing. So it knows at certain times of the gaming time when you normally get tired of it. So they give you for it. So you are winning more. So you keep on going. It's crazy. And I looked it up. $120 billion between video games, like your mobile games, your consoles, and your computer. $120 billion a year they make. And that's just sales, let alone the companies that have a piece of that. That's the total part. Unbelievable. Apple makes, how much? $1 billion, I think, or even more, just by hosting them on their platform. They're getting a share of things. So they don't even have to create it. They're just the flea market guy that comes around and collects. It's unbelievable how much money is in video games. So I told him that. I'm like, I just can't. And I'm like, you pay $160 or even $300. You know how many months you can get? You can get almost a year or even 2 years of a website of a business that you can make, and you can create very easily. So you can have a whole business website for a whole year for free because you have this $300, so just pay it. And it's just, I was like, there's so much more that you can be productive. And I'm like, and plus, once you turn that button off, once that light comes off, reality hits. So you really did nothing. And he listened to me. I liked it. But he's still going to play. He was talking to his buddy. His buddy was talking to him about him doing it. It's all influential. They want to get on the games and they want to get on this and online. And you think it's in social. It's not social at all. They're both obsessed with this game, so they don't care about the other friend. They don't care. They care about how he is in the game, not what he thinks his worldview on China. They don't care. So it is pretty crazy, and hopefully that helped him, but probably not. But hey, he listened to me. I'm happy for that. You know, at least I said my piece, and he said his, but he didn't say nothing too much about it. He said, oh, yeah, I know. Then, that was a funny thing. He mentioned, yeah, and I know I like to play this. And most like, oh, yeah, that's, so I know his age now because he mentioned college. He was like, yeah, next year when I go to college, so I knew my prediction was right. Yeah. He mentioned he was going to go to college next year. He's like, yeah, most likely I won't have time to play. And I was like, no, that's the ultimate time to play. I'm like, it's going to come no matter what. I'm like, adults do it. 30, 40-year-old adults, men do it. And women, but mostly men. And I didn't say this part to him because I didn't want to bash him too much, but you're lazy. Simple as that. You're lazy. You don't produce. And I'm not talking about for work. I'm talking about just for society. Men don't think about this anymore. How can I uplift my community, my neighborhood? Let me pick up some trash that's on my grass. Trash on the grass. Or on my lawn. Let me pick up trash from my neighbor's lawn. I see it in the park. I see, bottles, pop bottles or soda bottles that have been drunken already. And they're just on the floor. Or God forbid, a dirty napkin. Let me pick that up a little and just throw it in the trash. For your germaphobe people, put so much sanitizer, boom, you're done. I mean, all these things you got to look at. How do you produce for your community? And then again, for your family. You're not going to do it when you're playing a video game. Just not. I'm sorry. I may be 5'4", but I'm a man. And it takes a long time to be a man. And you learn more. You'll always learn. And you'll always better yourself because you're learning more and more. But you have to be responsible. It's hard for whenever I get mad with my wife or my kids, I always say, what if I just leave and get out of here? Just enjoy my whole life. I don't have to spend, $100 on food every week. I could just spend $20 for me every week and that's it. Why? I can save money. I don't need this, I said. There's some times where I think about that. And I always come back to no. This is my life. I'm going to be responsible for it. So I get why you feel like, okay, it's just easier. It is. But like my grandpa says, be a man and take care of your responsibilities. So it's crazy, this kid. And he's one of millions of young adults. Unbelievable. And he's black. So if you want to talk about black community being strong, same thing as if you were a Mexican guy. You talk about minorities. You talk about how we don't get no prosperity as minorities. You're doing that. But again, I can't say just for black people video games because it's all over. It's all over races. Races. Not racist. So all races, all different kinds of backgrounds play these video games. So it's not just black people. But I'm just saying if you want to fight even as a black person or as a Mexican person that play those video games, start a business. So easy to start a business right now. Mark Cuban said it best. All you need is a computer and internet. It's just crazy. You obviously have a computer because you're playing video games, or at least a TV, or obviously a monitor, 2 monitors. So it's unbelievable. Stop with that video game stuff. It's unproductive. And you want to hear the ticker? You're not getting none of that $120 billion. Nothing. You're paying for that. So, again, I can't get on board with it. Yes, I like it. Yes, it's fun. It's the same thing as pornography. It's an addiction. Yes, it's fun to see a woman naked. Yes, it's beautiful. But is it good for your family? Is it good for your community? Is it good for your kids? Is it good for your stepsister? Is it good for your stepbrother? Is it good for your father, for your mother? No. So you have to make a hard no and say no to it. Just say no. Or my good friend Nike would say, just do it. As far as saying no, just say no. Stop it. So it's crazy. So bless that young kid because he's going to take over his life. And at the same time, he thinks it's cool. That's what's crazy about it. I'm the minority here. Not because I'm Mexican. Well, kind of. But I'm the minority of the thinking, of the thought of you don't play video games because it'll ruin your lifestyle. It won't ruin your life. It'll just ruin your lifestyle. So cross that off. What's next? Biden, head of state. So if you guys ever saw the movie Head of State with Chris Rock, if you haven't, YouTube it. It is hilarious. It is so funny. So I think they made it during Bush era, but it was hilarious. So basically, but it has so much truth behind it. So let me tell you why, how it connects to Biden. So for the movie itself, the general concept of the movie is Chris Rock is alderman. If you don't know what alderman means, is kind of the cool political guy, but for the people. He's not, he's very casual dressing, but he just is for the community. He's kind of a smaller level of a congressman. He just helps out the community. Like a wannabe godfather, but no power. So he just helps the community. So when he does that, there's, the governments, they talk about the Democrats and Republicans. I don't think they mentioned Democrat, Republican, but they made it clear in the movie who are which. But they made a funny part where the higher ups that were getting ready, the guy, he says, okay, I'm going to run for president and most likely I'm going to win, but not this year. I'm going to wait 4 years, he said. This year, we can't go against this other guy because he's powerful. And they mentioned, and he's Sharon Stone's cousin. So no one can beat him. Apparently Sharon Stone's cousin means you got it in the bag for him. But it was just funny. He was like, he's great, he's wonderful, and he's Sharon Stone's cousin. But he mentioned that, he was like, we can't beat this guy. So we just need a runaround guy. We just need someone that just fills the spot. And next year or next 4 years, we'll get him. We're going to beat him. Because this is his last chance. I think this guy was already president, so he's got 4 more years if he wins. Because you can only serve 2 terms as president. So they're like, no, we're not going to beat this guy. And so we throw in the towel already, he said. So we just need a loser guy. And they ended up seeing Chris Rock. And the funny part about it was Chris Rock was actually winning. So that was a cool part. And the truth came out. They were like, no, you can't win. They're like, you're just there just to fill in the void there. And Chris Rock, defined them. And I don't think they showed that he won as president because obviously it's not a true story. But it was a cool thing that he talked about how you're not supposed to win. And he said that. You're only supposed to do what we tell you to do. And if you win, that means people are going to like you. And in 4 years, I'm going to have the same dilemma. You can't do that because I'm going to win. And he's on the same team. He was like, I'm going to be the president next 4 years. You're not, he says. And it was pretty cool. Chris Rock said, he was, I don't care, whatever. But like I said, I don't think they showed him winning as president. But it just showed him defying them. So that's the storyline in a nutshell. But how it connects to Biden, think about it. Biden cannot hold up a sentence, okay? And sometimes I can't, but I remember what I said, or I don't get lost of where I'm at and say that I'm at another location, or I don't get confused and mixed up between my wife and my sister-in-law, or I'm like, I don't do that, and I'm dumb. Maybe young, but I'm dumb. It's so crazy how he does that. It's so, and people say or CNN reported that he's riding a bike and he's all good. And I love the memes. They showed the little baby riding the bike. Like, little baby can ride a bike so he can become president. But he cannot hold up a sentence. He cannot do nothing cognitive. Nothing. So it's a serious problem. And I hate how people say, oh, he's just an old grandpa. No, he needs to be taken seriously and he needs to be get out. But they know that. The Democrats know that. So they just want to avoid, similar to the Head of State movie. They just want to avoid. Why do you think they picked Kamala Harris as the VP? They want to push her. She's a woman, she's black, even though she's more Indian and from Jamaica. Oh, but she's black, all right. But so many people talk about, even Don Lemon said African is different than black. Tell that to your VP, to Kamala Harris. She thinks she's black and she's African American. But it's just crazy how she just follows it. And I love how Ryanico, how he mentioned, he was like, we shouldn't attack her being a whore. Because that's what she was. She was, if you look up Willie Brown, she slept with him. She had an open affair when she was 30 and the guy was 60. While Willie Brown pushed her into politics, gave her so many appointments in politics. And then when he was caught for fraud or being accused of fraud, she's kind of distancing herself from him. So I thought that was a good way to talk about how she's a whore and she really has no validity of bringing her up by herself for these political positions. But then Derek mentioned, he was like, we shouldn't talk about that because the left likes it. He was like, the left think of slut shaming and all these different, be a proud slut, all this stuff. They have a slut walk. All these, Amber Rose mentioned the slut walk a couple years ago. They enjoy it. They're like, okay, good for you, sister. You used your body and your vagina to get where you're at. Good for you. Which is totally wrong. So he was like, we shouldn't talk about it too much. And I kind of agree. And a normal person, that would put you down because you have morals. But a lot of this country is not moral. It has nothing to do with prude. It's just having self-respect. And then they ask, well, why are we talking about rapes? Why are women still being less cared about as far as the workforce, or less than men? You add pornography, strip clubs, and letting these type of stories go away or walk away by having sex for positions, no pun intended, but political positions, 1 + 1 is 2. It's going to happen. That's why I disagree with all those things. But I'm the minority here. It's not going to work. So if you like one thing, you got to accept the consequences. I feel like a parent saying that. If you do this, accept the consequence. They do this, which is bad, and they don't want the results. They don't want the consequences. Well, too bad. You're going to have it. Just because you're mad at God. Again, it's all about people believing in God, people don't. All these Democrats, Republicans, you look at all these issues, it has something to do with God. It just does. It's just crazy. So that's the funny part of Biden, that they don't care about him. All they care about is what's going on next. They almost want them to lose because the next year they have Kamala Harris. She's definitely going to run for president because she already ran for VP. So I hope that's the case. I feel like 90% sure, especially but I'm basing it on a movie. So, who knows? But I hope that's the case. And it looks like it. And we'll see. I'm happy to say that it's a good possibility that they're just waiting for next year. They're looking at it. They're like, okay, we can't beat Trump. They call people racist. No. At the end of the day, we are American. It has nothing to do with us being racist. There's evil Americans and good Americans. What a coincidence. More evils than Democrats. I digress. So, senior citizen couple. Oh, yeah. Okay. I should end it with this because this is a beautiful, unbelievable. So, it was about an hour drive, and the distance was like 2 miles there and back. But it was an hour drive, or hour time for the passengers. So, older couple, I picked them up at the hotel, and they live about an hour away. But they were in town that they're spending the night for a couple days at the hotel because her husband has throat cancer. So they're doing some type of surgery on his throat, and they want to go eat. But they left some paperwork at the hospital, so they had to go back to hospital and to the hospital again and back to the hotel. But they wanted to eat on the way. And it's funny because sometimes I let people do that. It just depends. I judge people. If you're a jerk to me, most likely I won't do it. If you're nice to me, most likely I will if you ask. Like, hey, is there any way I can stop at the gas station? I won't put it on the thing. Or if the person, hey, I need to stop here. You need to do this. I let you decide on which person I'll be okay going to a gas station. The other person that I say, no, I can't. And people they do all the talk, but when I say no to them, they don't say nothing. Oh, okay. They act all tough, but when you respond back intelligently, okay, whatever. And that's it. I stay quiet. That's it. But the people who I see that are genuine, they're nice. Say, hey, is there any way I can stop for a pack of cigarettes? Is there any way I can stop? I appreciate that you care about me. That's the way they portray themselves. You know what? I'm taking your time away. I'm sorry. Can I stop there? But they don't say it like that, but how they say those words, is there any way we can stop at the gas station? That's what I interpret it as. Like, oh, they care about my time. Thank you. And yeah, if it's on the way, I don't care. Ultimately, I don't care. So it's funny. I can do it to anyone, but for anyone who's a jerk, I'm sorry. No. You're a jerk to me, and no, just don't. Is it, should we be nice to mean people? Yes, but no. They're just, no. And I am nice. I say nicely, no. So this lady, she was like, oh, she's partly blind, she said, that's why she can't see. He has part Alzheimer's, early stages Alzheimer's, and that's why he forgot the paperwork. And she was trying to maneuver it, and I was like, where is it? She says, down the street. I'm like, I'll be a nice guy. I was like, it's okay. She's like, oh, thank you so much. Thank you. And normally when I say yes to that, they might, 90% of the time, they give me a drink. Like, oh, do you want a drink or something? I'm like, yeah. I'll take a vitamin water, and boom. I call my wife and say, hey, I got free vitamin water. So it works. It works out. And so it's normally nice. And sometimes, like, she didn't ask for it. She was trying to put it in the system, into the Lyft app. And I'm like, you know what? I looked at it. I checked out my map. I'm like, don't worry about it. It's on me. I was proactive, so that's even more. She was more appreciative of my time. She didn't want a free ride to there. She wanted to put in. She just couldn't do it because she was over 60 years old, and it was hard for her to see at the same time. So I was like, don't worry about it. I'll do it. So when that happened, they came back, and we went to a Chinese place. And I thought, a pickup place. They'll pick up the food and go. And she's okay, we'll just be no more than an hour. I'm like, no, an hour? And I looked, And I thought in my head, and I did the math in my head. I'm like, all right, I'm getting paid for it because she's technically on the clock. And I'm like, all right. So I said, whatever. And then within 2 seconds, the husband, he came from behind and he gave me $20. It's for your troubles. I'm like, whoa. I don't know about you, but $20, I did the math, it's about $10 an hour I make for Lyft. That's 2 hours, just like that. And I save gas because I don't have to go anywhere for those 2 hours. And I'm like, thank you. I was truly blessed. I'm like, thank you. I really appreciate that. So yeah. And the lady was like, okay, she was getting out of the car, then she came back, but she just stepped out, but she looked back at me and she was like, do you want something to eat? And I'm like, oh, no. What do you want to eat? I'm like, she was good. She was good at convincing me. I'm like, whatever you think is good. And she's like, no. It was hilarious. She was like scolding me as if she was my mother. And she was like, no. What do you want? And that's what I always say to my wife. It is hilarious because my wife is like, oh, do whatever. I'm like, no, tell me exactly. And then she's doing it to me. So it was funny. I was like, you're right. Like, I follow my wife, I guess. And it was hilarious. So she's like, no, you tell me what you want. What do you want? And I was like, you know what? Almond chicken. And she was like, almond chicken it is. 10 minutes later, she came out, or the husband came out and gave me a whole big plate. I shared half of it, or kind of half of it, ate a little more, with my wife that evening. It was wonderful. And then as I took them back, literally it was like 40 minutes, so she was right. It was under an hour. And I was just watching Joe Rogan. That was the time when I was watching Joe Rogan, Ed Calderon. So I was eating my food, and I should have went inside because we talked a little more. And like I said, it was a short trip to go back to the hotel. And they mentioned real quick, they're Polish Catholic as well. And she mentioned how they've been married for 49 years. In December, it'll be 49 years, she said. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And 18 years old she was. And what beautiful thing about that was, wow, like it's almost hard to say because the way she said it, like, man, I almost wanted to cry. I'm like, oh my gosh, I think I found true love with this couple. And I see it. But she says, yeah, I know we're fragile right now, but he'll always be with me until I die. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And it's different. And I told him, like, you guys are inspiring to me because I see couples that I've talked about on this show, and still I have some. But I mentioned there's one guy, 27 years married. He's living in a hotel, and he needs to leave by Wednesday of last week. So I don't know where he's at, and he needs a place to stay, and he's just getting a fixed income, and his wife left him 6 years ago. He's having a hard time, and I took him to a dialysis center. I had one lady that never worked for over like 10 years. She was married for 32 years. And they divorced, and she's in this hotel, or she's in this apartment, not the very best apartment location either. You don't care about them. And it's very sad. You see people just throwing the towel, like, I don't need to care. And then, God forbid, if you get sick or if you're fragile, less they want you. So it is sad. It's just very sad. And wow. So I thought I can get to all of it, but there's still a lot more. Let me write this one down. 20-year-old father. Girlfriend. Alright, so I'll talk about that next time. And so we have a lot to talk about, at least 4 different topics. And with the news, let me get to the news. I know we talked a lot about my encounters or conversations with people, but just to end that one, man, they're just a wonderful couple. And I asked them, like, what's your secret? I felt lame asking, but it's very simple. They said, don't ever go to sleep mad. And he said that. Like, he didn't talk too much. It was more the wife. But he said that himself. He was like, don't ever go to sleep mad. Wow. Then she mentioned communication. And then she also said, whoo, that was a good one. I told my wife this. She's like, you really can't change the person. She was like, they may change little things, but like their attitudes, their demeanor, it's like, you really can't change it. It sounds like she tried or he tried. But yeah, so I mean, it's very important how you were raised because that affects your whole life. So it was really cool. She said that. She was like, you change little things. Yeah, you might like different interests, but how you act or how you approach things, it just doesn't change. So be careful on your habits because they will stay with you. And again, video games, that's not going to end. If you like video games now, you really have to fight for it, to say no to it. If not, it's always going to be there. And women have a right to say you're lazy because you are lazy. So let's go to the U.S. Catholic news. West Virginia's Catholic bishop says Emeritus Bishop Bransfield not in contact. So what does that mean? Let's see. From Denver Newsroom, Bishop Michael Bransfield, who headed West Virginia's only Catholic diocese before retiring amid scandal, has not communicated with his successor in months. A plan to ensure he makes some reparation for financial and sexual misconduct has still not been implemented. I have not heard from him in many months, and I would not expect to. Bishop Mark Brennan of the Diocese of Wheeling, Charleston, told the Metro News call-in radio show Talkline August 4th, whatever he is doing and is in a dark hole. We do not know exactly what he is up to. We have not been in communication. Brennan said the Apostolic Nuncio in Washington, D.C. has not heard from Bransfield either. The Holy See in Rome imposed upon Bishop Bransfield the obligation to make amends for some of his wrongdoing. I wasn't sent in to demand that. They demanded that. Brennan continued. What they asked me to do was work with him, and let me tell you that was not easy to do. According to Brennan, Bransfield did not admit wrongdoing and refused to make his own plans to make amends. The Washington Post on August 11th said Bransfield declined to comment. The Diocese of Wheeling, Charleston told CNA, the Catholic News Agency, we have no further comment other than what was already been reported. Wheeling, Charleston, West Virginia's only Roman Catholic diocese, about 1.8 million people live in the state, and about 110,000 of them are Catholic. Bransfield headed the diocese from 2005 to 2018. Pope Francis accepted his resignation in September 2018, just after Bransfield turned 75. After Pope Francis accepted Bransfield's resignation, the Pope ordered Archbishop William Lori of Baltimore to investigate allegations that Bransfield had sexually harassed adult males and misused diocese finances during his time in West Virginia. Investigators established that the bishop had engaged in a pattern of sexual malfeasance and serious financial misconduct. Bransfield spent nearly $1 million on private jets and over $660,000 on airfare and hotels during his 13 years as Bishop of Wheeling, Charleston. He often stayed in luxury accommodations on both work trips and personal vacations. This is why I love the Catholic News Agency about EWTN. They don't mess around. They will call out bad even on their own. Good for them, because this guy needs to get out. 75 years old, over $1 million on private jets, over $500,000 on airfares and hotels, and he only has been there for 13 years. And he's hiding. Why is he hiding? He says he didn't do anything. Why is he hiding? Shame on him. But he's not represents all priests, all bishops. Get that out of your head. This is a bad man. He's evil. And yes, there are evil people in the church. Is God evil? No. Are his creatures evil? Yes. Are all of them evil? No. Do I like Arby's Euro sandwich? Yes. Do I like pizza from Marco's Pizza? Yes. Do I like Marco's Pizza with pineapples? Maybe. It's just, it's crazy how this happens. And again, I'm very happy that they bring that news to our attention because we're not hiding from things. That's what I hate about people talk about, oh, the scandals. It's not a scandal. It's news. If you want to call it a scandal, that means we're hiding everyone. But this is public news. It's just CNN doesn't talk about it. They don't talk about how we report it. They just talk about, oh, it's a scandal. No one's talking about it, but we are talking about it. No, it's, if we look on Catholic apps and we become Catholic ourselves, not fake Catholics, and learn about these things, we will know that even our own side does not stand for that. And again, people say, oh, even the Pope knows. I doubt that. Again, it comes from your CNNs of the world. Because this is what I care about. The Pope said, look into this guy. What's going on? So no, I believe the Pope. I believe the Pope will put good into this and look for it. And again, me personally, I don't think money will fix it. I think taking care of this person, meaning, excommunicate, whatever you would call them, as far as getting him out of the Catholic Church, that's the best reparation ever. So he doesn't do any harm or influence other priests to do harm. Very sad. Man, I'm sorry to hear that. It says Brennan's plan for Bransfield would require him to apologize to his alleged victims of sexual harassment, apologize to the diocese faithful, and repay nearly $800,000 to begin to make amends. Heck yeah. I'll take that money. But again, it's not going to do anything. Yeah, it's a Band-Aid. They'll feel good, but... And again, please do not lose faith in God because of this bad person. That's what evil wants you to do. Think about it. I heard this in EWTN talk show guy. He mentioned, he was like, think about what evil's plan is, to get closest to the most faithful and turn them down. He doesn't care about a wannabe Catholic. That's why a lot of times wannabe Catholics don't experience nothing. He cares about people that say the rosary. He's going to fight for people who are all in. Because when you have more of those strong people, you have an army of strong people. And that always beats hell. Always. So the devil's trying to get to these people. Because when other wannabe Catholics see that and say, oh, look, they're living in sin, they will lose. So it's a better win for the devil. If he does something bad to a person that's wannabe Catholic, that doesn't go to church a lot, doesn't go to Mass a lot, no effect. The strong Catholics, the strong belief Catholics that take their faith seriously say, okay, whatever, I'm still strong in my faith. But if you do the opposite, you're going to lose double the amount. So yeah, they will go after your priests. They will go after your laity. They will go after your staff. They will go after your servers. All these different positions in the Catholic Church. They will. Your bishops, even the Pope. I mean, it's crazy, but it has nothing to do with God, with your relationship with God. Please take that away, because it has nothing to do with that. God will love you no matter what. But you're the one who make excuses that say, well, John Doe priest is a rapist, so I hate the Catholic Church. Think how unrelatedly dumb that is to say. That's just a confirmation that you don't have a strong faith in God. You're easily broken. So think about it. You should ask yourself, will a scandal like this or just a report like this hurt my relation with God? Okay, if it does, then how strong is my relation with God? Ask that question. Let me learn a little bit more. When was the last time you said a Hail Mary to yourself in your head, let alone in public, or let alone in your voice? When was the last time you said Our Father? When was the last time you said, thank you, God, for this day? A lot of times, no. try it. I dare you to try it. You feel different. You just feel different. You feel like, wow, I have a purpose in life. I didn't do anything today. I just said, thank you, God, and I have a purpose in life. So, back to another one. Cincinnati Cathedral elevated to minor basilica. Hey, Cincinnati, Ohio. Big Daddy from Cincinnati. I don't know where that's from. There's something. Archdiocese of Cincinnati announced Saturday that Pope Francis has granted the title of minor basilica to the Cathedral of St. Peter in Chains, which was celebrated its 175th anniversary this fall. St. Peter in Chains is the oldest, so I guess Chains is in Cincinnati? Maybe wrong. No, I don't think it's in Cincinnati. St. Peter in Chains is the oldest cathedral that was built as a cathedral that is still in use today in the United States. Wow. Interesting. So it's the biggest cathedral. We have one in Toledo, that where I was born and raised. Go Rockets! That is off of, I forgot that street, man. But it's a Holy Rosary Cathedral. Huge. It's beautiful. It's like a heaven. Go there sometime. Look it up. For all of us who live and worship in our archdiocese, this is a great blessing and honor that has been bestowed on our Catholic Cathedral Church, said Cincinnati Archbishop Dennis Schnurr, who made the announcement of the designation at a Mass on Saturday. Let us pray on this day as we honor Our Lady in her Assumption, that the Church of the Archdiocese of Cincinnati, her clergy and faithful, along with all the people of this great city, may benefit from this blessing and give thanks for all that the Lord has brought to the fruition. Nice. One more. What's the Assumption, anyway? So, I think this was a couple days ago. Mary's Assumption. So she will explain a little bit more. On August 15th, we're about to get married on the 15th, my wife and I, but we got married on August 22nd, which is coming up soon. If you have any ideas for a anniversary gift, throw them at your friend. Throw them. Because I still have ideas. Thought about buying a very, very cool pencil. I don't know if that works. So, we'll see. But 5 years coming here in a couple days, so I'm so excited. I love my wife. Something that she just brings so much joy to me through my hard times, through my good times. So much joy. So, and we don't make a lot of money, and somehow she's still with me. On paper, she should have divorced me. I ruined her credit. I ruined mine too. So, and she still loves me. She doesn't care about that. We're still together. I take care of my family. And I find what's more important. And we're actually saving. And I'm learning about the credit world. It's crazy. I'll talk to you about the credit world. I'll put that down too. In fact, let me do it now because I will forget. So credit card world. Business, I should say. So credit card world of business. So that's interesting too. I learned a lot about it, but I'm getting better from it. So that's pretty cool. So, what is this? So, but while the feast day is a relatively new one, the history of the holiday and the mystery behind it has its roots in the early centuries of Christian belief. Yeah, because it's Mary. The Catholic Church teaches that when Mary ended her earthly life, God assumed her body and soul into heaven. The dogma of the Assumption of Mary, also called the Dormition of Mary in the Eastern churches, has its roots in the early centuries of the church. While a site outside of Jerusalem was recognized as the tomb of Mary, the earliest Christians maintained that no one was there. Theologian and NWTN senior contributor Matthew Bunson told CNN. According to St. John of Damascus, the Roman Emperor Marcian requested the body of Mary, Mother of God, at the Council of Chalcedon in 451. Interesting. St. Juvenal, who was Bishop of Jerusalem, told the emperor that Mary died in the presence of all the apostles, but that her tomb, when opened upon the request of St. Thomas, was found empty. Woo! Wherefrom the apostles conclude that the body was taken up to heaven. And the saint recorded, by the 8th century, around the time of Pope Adrian, the church began to change its terminology, renaming the feast, so the 8th century, so that's 900 AD, renaming the feast day of the Memorial of Mary to the Assumption of Mary. The belief in the Assumption of Mary was a widely held tradition, and a frequent meditation in the writings of saints throughout the centuries. However, it was not defined officially until the past century. In 1950, Pope Pius XII made infallible ex cathedra statement in the Apostolic Constitution Municentissimos II, officially defining the dogma of the Assumption. Cool. 1950. So by the authority of our Lord Jesus Christ, the blessed apostles Peter and Paul, and by our own authority, we pronounce, declare, and define it to be divinely revealed dogma that the Immaculate Mother of God, the ever Virgin Mary, having completed the course of her earthly life, was assumed body and soul into heaven glory, the Pope wrote. The decree was seen as a formalizing of long-held Christian teaching. We have, throughout the history of the Church, an almost universal attestation of this, Bernsen said of the Assumption. We have this thread that runs throughout the whole of the history of the Church in support of the dogma. That's significant because it supports the traditions of the Church, but it also supports a coming to a deeper understanding of the teachings of Church, of how we rely upon the reflections of some of the greatest minds of our Church. What's also notable about the dogma, he added, is that it uses the passive tense, emphasizing that Mary did not ascend into heaven on her own power, as Christ did, but was raised into heaven by God's grace. So the ascension of Jesus Christ, he was ascended by himself, he did it, but Mary was assumed by God's grace. Interesting point, so you can know the difference. Today, the Feast of the Assumption is marked as a major feast day and a public holiday in many countries. In most countries, including the United States. Who? What? Huh? Yes, the United States. It is a holy day of obligation. Oh, yeah. So you should have went to church. You should have went to Mass that day. To be honest with you, I don't think we did. Sucks. But it's a holy day obligation. That's something we have to do when we go to confession now. Again, take it seriously. We're all sinners, but take it seriously. Because you feel different when you are truly sorry about things. Makes a difference. So I have to write that down for my confession. What is more fitting than on the Assumption of Blessed Mother to once again focus on her Son, on the Eucharist? Oh, that was a question. That Bunsen explained that on major feast days, it's fitting to mark the significance of the feast as especially vital by emphasizing the necessity of celebrating the Eucharist that day. The Eucharist is powerful. It's Jesus. I said this before. If you want to, people say, oh, I want to get close to Jesus. You try to pray, hear crazy noise. Yeah, I feel the life of Jesus. Or you can go to Mass and consume and receive the Eucharist, which is mind, body, soul, and divinity. I'll repeat that again. Mind, body, soul, and divinity. So mind, meaning the mind of Jesus. Soul, his whole entire soul. What's the other one? Mind, body, soul, and divinity. So soul, mind, body, his whole entire body. I missed that one. Soul, and then divinity, like his divine love. All goes into you as you consume this. Us as humans, meaning eating, consuming it. It's in your body, the mind, body, soul, and divinity. of Jesus Christ is in you, how closer can you get? How closer can you get from that? But you got to believe. You got to believe that this is truly Jesus in his most present form. Mind, body, soul, and divinity. It took me a while to remember that, and I still mess up. But after watching or hearing relevant radio a lot, it comes to you naturally. So I would suggest watch relevant radio or EWTN. So the crazy news. You know what? I think I downloaded Epic Times. Yes. I'm going to talk about the Epic Times because to me, I think they are so far the truest ones. They don't say that they're for Trump because, again, the CNNs of the world point them. They basically say, oh, they're connected to something crazy. They believe in aliens. Don't follow them. But then when you download their app and read what they're talking about, because that's what they're saying. Oh, they're all for Trump. They are biased. They are so many things that were bad they mentioned. And yes, I watch CNN. So you guys don't have to. So that's the thing that I just did not like. I'm like, I'm going to call BS. I'm going to look them up myself and see what it is. Maybe I'll form the same opinion. Maybe I won't. And I don't form the same opinion. They talk about other things. But U.S., good and bad, that has nothing to do with Trump. So that's the closest to me so far. I know Joe Rogan mentioned Jimmy Dore, but even him, when he talked to him on Joe Rogan, he leans a little to the left too. So I don't know. So to me, I like the Epic Times. They do talk about Trump a lot as far as what he's done, but it's nothing like as if CNN talks about Democrats. Nothing like that. Not to the level of the minuscule level of what CNN rides on Democrats. They talk about everything about it. Heck, they say Joe Biden is great because he rides a bike. So I don't see that in Epic Times. But they defend him. They really defend him rather than, say fake things about him. So, but they also talk about other things about Trump that are not good. So you tell me. Look them up. Tell me what you think. But again, the top news, this is the top news, it says 17 officers hurt, 24 people arrested as demonstrations turned violent in Chicago. People don't talk about that. So I like it. And they don't talk about Trump. Let's see. Latest news. I just like how it's all set up. So let's talk about that in Chicago because that's not being taught about or spoken about. On August 15th, protests turned violent in Chicago on Saturday when demonstrators began attacking police officers with bottles, skateboards, your loser skateboards, your Tony Hawks, what? And other objects. Yeah, they're teenagers or they're young jerks. Can't afford a car, buddy. Oh my gosh, leaving 17 injured. The day began with a peaceful protest. Oh, yeah, CNN would say they're mostly peaceful. With no arrests or violent incidents, Police Superintendent David Brown said. During a separate protest later in the afternoon, multiple agitators had hijacked this peaceful protest. So, a separate protest later. So, they are, wedding crashers. Sink your turf, get on out of here. So again, for people who are peacefully protesting, know that you are going to be part of that crowd. It's just, you will. So that's what's crazy about it. Video footage showed demonstrators clashing with police. One man used a skateboard to repeatedly bash an officer on the head. Damn. The officers used force and pepper spray to get the situation under control. And pepper spray. They banned in some cities. They made 24 arrests, including 4 for felony charges. 17 officers were treated for non-life-threatening injuries, suffered from getting hit by objects, and maced. 2 protesters were treated at the scene. Brown said the situation was very, very difficult and tenuous, but added that he was proud of how their officers handled it. Good. So I know it's getting almost a 2-hour mark. So I told you I had a lot to talk about. So let's talk about the readings today. Catholic readings today. Today is Sunday. So let's go to just a daily reading, the gospel today. And, well, I'll say the first reading once it loads up. But yeah, that's crazy. As it loads up, let me look up another one for the Epoch Times. 11 minutes ago, it says the latest news. U.S. South Korea to begin military drills amid virus concern. Interesting. South Korea and the United States will start their annual joint military drills on Tuesday, and what local media said was a 2-day delay after a South Korean officer tested positive for the new coronavirus. The new coronavirus? We're in 4 months already? What, May? So 5 and 8? Yeah, we're in 4 months? Oh my gosh. It started in late March. Or early April, I think. Yeah, late March, yeah. The drills will start on Tuesday, considering the COVID-19 situation. South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff said on Sunday. The training, which had been scheduled to begin on Sunday, was pushed back after the positive test on Friday. The Army officer who was to have taken part, Yonhap News Agency said. Yonhap? That's funny. The combined drills are closely monitored by North Korea, which calls them a rehearsal for war. They have been reduced in recent years to facilitate U.S. negotiations aimed at dismantling Pyongyang's nuclear programs. This year's exercise will be scaled down, not mobilizing U.S.-based troops amid COVID-19 restrictions on the travel of U.S. personnel to South Korea. So they're flexing their guns, literally. Alright, so back, what's another one? Portland rioters chant, "Kill a cop," threaten to burn down police precincts. Yes, it's crazy. This was August 16th, so today. Rioters in Portland on Saturday night, so just yesterday, threatened to burn down police precincts if their demands aren't met by the authorities. Before being forcefully dispersed by police officers, the mob had also surrounded a group of men who traveled in a limousine to see firsthand what's been happening in the city. Unrest has shaken Portland since May 28th with no signs of letting up. A crowd started marching from Lurhurst Park, about 3 miles east of downtown, to the nearby Penebra Kelly building, which houses a Multnomah County Sheriff's Office, around 9:10 p.m. The bulk of the group stopped short of the building and began loud chants including "Kill a cop, save a life." What do we want? Justice. When do we want it? Now, if we don't get it, burn it down. In every city, every town, burn the precinct to the ground. Sure, you're going to get your demands then. You're just teasing. It's kind of like messing with the strong, quiet guy. The big, quiet, muscular bear guy. And you're just throwing stuff at him. What is this? I don't know what it is. I was trying to think of a, a slingshot. But David and Goliath, you know how that ended up. So not that slingshot, but a crappier one. He just teasing with them. You're flicking at him. Hey, buddy, you ain't doing nothing. Give me all your money. Hey, give me this. Hey, give me that burger. Can I get that cheeseburger? Huh? Can I get a pie? Can I get $5? Come on. I want free stuff. One of these days, that quiet guy, that quiet giant is going to say, boom, punch him right in the baby maker. I like saying that, I guess. But it was a guy, so he doesn't have a baby maker. Well, I guess he does from the other side, if you know what I mean. Anyways, you punch him right in the eyes. How about that? Right in the square. Right in the eyes. Boom, he put him down. Guess who's that quiet giant? The U.S. military. If you want to mess around, you're going to wake up the military. And they already are doing little by little. They're bringing the little small amounts. But if you're talking about burning down a business or a town, a city, Trump is just waiting. Oh man, I can't wait because they deserve it. They deserve it. If you're messing with our own, again, America has its own problems. It's crazy how that happens. But sooner or later, they're talking about Joe Rogan about the cartels going. We have our own people messing up, but drug cartels might do that too. They have over what 100, maybe 200 soldiers. But again, what's that when you talk about thousands? And who knows? Again, then you gotta look at the Mexican government. Maybe the Mexican government has their own soldiers, which are a lot. Maybe they go with the cartels. Who knows? It's crazy. We don't know what's going on in Mexico, but in the cartels, if they want to mess with the U.S. government, you will lose. And even the Mexican government with them, most likely you'll still lose. I mean, it's the U.S. military. I mean, we defeated, what's that guy's name? Oh, yeah, Hitler. He wanted to take over the world, and we beat him. So don't mess with us. Korea, Japan wanted to beat us. You saw what we did to Japan in the 40s? just don't tempt us. And that's where, America has a responsibility. I like what Trump is doing. He's saying we can flex our muscles, but we're not using it. We just want you to know. And that's a form of peace. When you say, hey, don't mess with us. We have all this, so let's have a peaceful life. But if you keep on picking with them, the government's going to happen. So it's pretty interesting. For the sake of crazy CNN, I got to give them their news too, because I'm an even guy. I want to do as much as non-biased. I might make fun of them, but I'll at least share their news. And plus, Apple has it all the time right here, so it's in front of us. USA Today says it's a little, and when I say CNN, I talk about CNNs of the world, so you name them, all of them. USA Today actually did an article about Derek, Grandanico? He only has 25,000 followers. ABL, Anthony Brian Logan, Tatum, Brandon Tatum. Brandon Tatum has over 1 million. ABL has over 600,000. And they didn't talk about them. They talk about this guy. 25,000, which is still a lot. But they mentioned something how he says Kamala Harris, something. They try to disprove him. And they say, oh, no, he's not talking about it. Or he's not talking about it correctly. And it looks like he was a false news guy. It's farthest from the truth. Because you listen to his channel. And he tells you the truth. And you can see who's the liar in it. But USA Today put it out there. They said, and they know he's a young black man, smart black man. What do they want to do with a young, smart black man? Put him down. So if you want to talk about classism, racism, they're doing it. And guess what they're doing it for? Because he's a Republican. So, can't have that. Can't have that. Free-thinking black man is Republican. Too much. Free-thinking Mexican man. Too much. But it's okay. I only got 5 subscribers. So, they can't do nothing to me. I got no reach. Kind of like Michael Scott in The Office. He made a paper company that's worth nothing. And he was negotiating on selling his company. And they're like, no, you can't do this, Michael. You can't. He was like, yes, I can, because my company's worth nothing. And he said the truth. But he said it in a way of convincing him. He was like, it's worth nothing, but I'll have power. And I'll make another company. I'll make another. And he believed him. It was hilarious. Great producing in that part of that show, let alone all of it. It's wonderful. So going back, I digress. Going back to USA Today's fake news. It's a little nerve-wracking lunchtime for students looks different amid COVID-19. Let's see here. And it sucks that I have to open it, and then by the time I go back to it, it changes. The news changes. So it's really weird. They don't keep it the same. And they give you like a second to read it, and then it changes again. And look, the USA Today is loading up slow. So, yeah, it changed again. Politico. Robert Trump, younger brother of President Trump, has died at 71. Wow, younger brother. So how old is Trump? He's 70-something. Oh, that's sad. How mail-in voting began on Civil War battlefields. Oh, gosh. And that's the National Geographic. All right. TMZ. Foster kid in Oklahoma gets thousands of adoption inquiries after moving video. BuzzFeed. 35 cleaning tips that help make your life so much easier. Who cares? Where's the CNN? Here I'm looking at CNN. It doesn't do nothing. It's hiding. All right, the USA popped up. Going back to lunchtime for students looks different amid COVID-19. Indianapolis is a swing state, if I remember correctly. So and that's where Pence is governor at. In past school years, you could find kids sitting together at a table in the cafeteria, some from other own class, some from others. You might have heard laughter and perhaps even spotted students sharing food with each other. Now in schools that decide to open for in-person instruction, some students will eat lunch in the classrooms or will sit with their classes in the cafeteria as schools try to prevent the spread of novel coronavirus. Welcome to my life. I had no friends in grade school. I sat by myself. I took a nap during lunchtime because no one could talk with me. I took my homework that I had from the morning to do at lunch because no one talked to me. So I ate my lunch, did my homework, boom, took a nap. So who cares? Kids will go outside afterwards and have a good time. That is just dumb. Who cares? Who cares? You didn't care about your kids before. Now you care about them now? I mean, whatever. They just live your life. I get you have to be separate, all this stuff, but we're gonna die from it. And a lot of times there's one thing that I saw that a person put the average age of a person dying from COVID is the same age or around the same age of the average person that dies in America. Just regularly dies. So, I mean, yes, it's sad, but Joe Rogan said this too. It's also sad when your grandparents die of leukemia, or Alzheimer's, of cancer, of liver cancer, whatever. That's also sad. But we're not going to stop the entire economy. We're not going to treat our kids. And what a coincidence. Again, it's all politicized. They didn't care about the kids back then. It's just another way of talking about it. They didn't care about the kids. The kids are going to playgrounds. They're hanging out. They're having birthday parties. They didn't care about the kids then. Oh, but school starts. It's baloney. They didn't even care about the kids as far as their being immune. They said, in fact, that might be a better way of their kids because they won't get immune, or they're immune to it. Like they have a strong immune system. So it's all politicized right now. So take your kid to school, and if you don't, homeschool them. Oh no, wait, homeschool is for losers. It's for these weird caved Christian people that believe in Jesus with tambourines or whatever those little, tambourines I think, or I don't know, but those little drums. No, it's for the farthest from the truth. My wife is doing a wonderful job on caring for our kids. And it's no coincidence. Look up YouTube, Home from School. You see all these kids are being smarter than the average kid. But they don't, that goes to the school or public school. They don't talk about that. They don't talk about how you will be more inclined to go to college and more apt to go to college at a younger age. They don't talk about that statistics. So it's all about caring for your child. And homeschool is 100% caring for your child because you have to do all that stuff. And you're not getting paid as like a public school teacher. You're doing it because you love your kid and you want to guide your kid. That's why I like working for Lyft, because I can change different times and work at different times to accommodate that. We're only going to be parents once. Well, not if you have multiple marriages or multiple partners that you have kids with. But that's another story. But yeah, I mean, if you're with your wife for a very long time until death, you're only going to be a parent once with that person. So do it. It's worth it. It's definitely worth it. So yeah, that's the crazy part about that from the school part of it. Let your kids go to school or do the homeschool and you'll do so much better. YouTube, there's so much things about it, about taking care of your kid, of different activities that you can do right now instead of schools doing it. And some of them they don't because they have 10, 12 other kids to deal with. You just have your kids, maybe 1, 2, 3, but it's definitely not more than 10. Some schools, they have 1-to-2 ratio or 1-to-10 ratio, meaning for every teacher, there's at least 10. So it's crazy. It's definitely crazy, or even more depending on the business side of it. They don't have enough staff. So look into home from school. I call it, home from school. No, school from home. How they say work from home. The WFH. Now it's SH. SFH. Good Lord. I'm having a Biden moment. But I'm going to start doing that whenever I mess up. Oh, dang it. I pulled the Biden. Good one. Anyways, yeah, so school from home, SFH. I'm going to coin that one. When people say, oh, do you homeschool? No, we're in the SFH program. They're like, what? Yeah, school from home. It's the more hip thing to say. Work from home. Yeah, school from home. So you have to go with it because apparently people think of homeschooled as these weird Christian kids. If you don't believe in the Bible, you're evil. The devil's coming to get you. It is ridiculous. Yes, the majority of them are Christians because what a coincidence. They care about their family, and that's the majority of what Christianity is. So it just makes sense. But how they picture it, how they portray it, is farthest from the truth. You're going to have a better son. You're going to have a more respectable son. Or if you have a daughter, same thing. You're going to have so much more benefits. But you're not paying taxes off that. And that's what the government wants. That's what the city wants. They want your money from the taxes. So that's what it is. So that's why they push these public things. And from there, they can tell your kids anything. They can teach your kids anything. If it's socially responsible. Whatever that word is. So if transgenderism, they're going to put that in the curriculum. Homosexuality is okay. They're going to put that in their curriculum. Then you have Disney movies. Then by the time you know it, they just formed your child's thinking. And you're like, how did that happen? It's all a business. So that's why I just don't agree with it. And I agree with what my wife says. And on top of that, we have a great bonding. Who wouldn't want more bonding with their kids? So it's past the 2-hour mark, so let me finish up here with the reading. All right, so the reading for today, the first reading, thus, name Father, Son, Holy Spirit, Isaiah 56, verses 6 through 7, chapter 56. Thus says the Lord, observe what is right, do what is just, for my salvation is about to come, my justice about to be revealed, the foreigners who join themselves to the Lord, ministering to him, loving the name of the Lord and becoming his servants, all who keep the Sabbath free from profanation and hold to my covenant. Them I will bring to my holy mountain and make joyful in my house of prayer. Their burnt offerings and sacrifices will be acceptable on my altar, for my house shall be called a house of prayer for all peoples. The gospel today is at the time, there's a second reading. Brothers and sisters, this is from Romans chapter 11, 13 through 15, and 29 through 32. Brothers and sisters, I'm speaking to you Gentiles. Inasmuch as I'm the apostle to the Gentiles, I glory in my ministry in order to make my race jealous and thus save some of them. For if their rejection is the reconciliation of the world, what will their acceptance be but life from the dead? For the gifts and the call of God are irrevocable, just as you once disobeyed God, but have now received mercy because of their disobedience. So they now have disobeyed in order that the virtue of the mercy shown to you, they too may now receive mercy. For God delivered all to disobedience, that he might have mercy upon all. Wow. So it's almost like we were made to sin so we can see the glory of God, but we have to choose it. Interesting. I talked about that before from another friend of mine, one of my friends, probably my only friend in God, that I met during a Lyft ride. I met him like twice, and I call him my friend because he's wonderful in learning or in telling me about the Catholic teaching. He knows a lot about it. So he told me about that. Like through sin, we learn through the mercy of God. Pretty interesting. At the time, so Matthew, this is a gospel, Matthew chapter 15, verses 21 through 28. At that time, Jesus withdrew to the region of Tyre and Sidon, and behold, a Canaanite woman of that district came and called out, "Have pity on me, Lord, Son of David. My daughter is tormented by a demon." But Jesus did not say a word in answer to her. Jesus' disciples came and asked him, "Send her away, for she keeps calling out after us." He said in reply, "I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." But the woman came and did Jesus homage, saying, "Lord, help me." He said in reply, "It is not right to take the food of the children and throw it to the dogs." She said, "Please, Lord, for even the dog eats the scraps that fall from the table of their masters." Then Jesus said to her in reply, "O woman, great is your faith. Let it be done for you as you wish." And the woman's daughter was healed from that hour. Beautiful. Father, Son, Holy Spirit. So that's the end of today. Hope you guys have a wonderful Sunday. I'm going to have a great Sunday. Please pray for my brother. I'll talk a little bit more about that. He's not doing well, and I love him. I love him. Tito, I love you. And just pray for him, please. And hope you guys have a great day, and good morning. It's 9 o'clock. It's ready to go. Let me take another drink. Oh, yeah. And we'll see you tomorrow, hopefully. Have a blessed day.